Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius Energy Drink. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. With me is Scott Reynolds from pewterreport.com. It is a wonderful Wednesday. I haven't been on a podcast in 5 days, Scott.
What have you been doing, John? What have you been doing?
It's the longest hiatus for me, I think, since I started at Pewter, or since we took the pod 5 days a week anyway, instead of 4 days a week. So, whoa, look,
look at that.
We look extremely studious on today's show.
We've been studying, haven't we?
We have been. We've been
doing
studying
some research.
Yes. Very closely this Bucs quarterback situation, and so we just thought we'd look our best today on the show and just show people with our appearance how hard we've studied for this podcast today. It's
these aren't fake glasses either. These are not props. These are real legit glasses.
Okay, yours are prescription glasses, right?
Yes.
Okay, mine are like the blue light glasses. I have contacts in. Mine are like the blue light glasses. They're supposed to filter out light because I turn up all the brightness on my apps like a true maniac. It's supposed to filter some of that out.
Great.
So I'm not going to wear these the whole show because they're
I'm not either
for people. But
yeah, there we go.
Definitely wanted to just show you.
But I can hear you,
we're coming out of the study mode for the Bucs quarterback situation. So obviously wanted to let that know to people. We got a loaded show today. We're going to talk about the Bucs quarterback situation. We're going to update the unupdatable is what we're going to call it, because I don't know that there's updates necessarily always to give, but we continue to talk about it. You and I talk about it all the time and speculate. And I hear what other people in the know in the media biz are talking about. And so I'm just going to put all that out there, whether people take it as an update or not. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about Ryan Jensen, Alex Kappa, some of what we're hearing and just what their situation is going into free agency and how the Bucs treat that. And we're also going to talk about the Bucs' biggest offseason needs that are coming up. So real excited to get into all that today, Scott, because a lot of people think it's the quiet time of the year, but for us, we get the combine around the corner next week. Matt and I are going to be there in Indy.
Yes.
Feels like things are just starting to pick up for us right now. What's going to be a crazy offseason.
It really has, And me, I mean, John, I've been a Blaine Gabbert fan all year. I mean, why wouldn't I? I mean, the Buccaneers are undefeated when Blaine Gabbert played this year.
That's true. Right? Yes.
It's great to see our colleague and friend Rick Stroud come around, to the notion that Blaine Gabbert very well might be the best option for the Buccaneers. Now, not the best option in terms of he's the best quarterback available, right? Or that he's the the best quarterback that could help the Buccaneers in 2022, but he might be the best guy that they can get. If you notice, we do have a disclaimer right at the bottom where we're not endorsing the notion of Blaine Gabbert. We're simply reporting on the likelihood of Blaine being the best option for the Buccaneers. And listen, Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times said the exact same thing, folks. Don't kill the messenger. Don't kill me, right? Kill Rick too.
We do not represent Gabbert, nor are we employed by Gabbert.
No, we are not.
Pewter Report owner, owner Blaine Gabbert.
And Blaine did not slip me a $20 bill to say nice things about him either. So that is the disclaimer that we will throw out there when we're talking about Blaine Gabbert this offseason. So.
Look, it's been funny. Like, this has honestly picked up steam. Like,
and there's the handoff right there. That's the tag team. You're in, Blaine. It's your team now, right?
You have to put these disclaimers out when you go from Tom Brady to potentially playing Gabbert at quarterback, and that's a real possibility. You have to put it out there. Now, if the Bucs end up getting another quarterback or something else ends up happening, there will always be the revisionist. People really thought the Bucs were going to go into 2022 with playing Gabbert as their starting quarterback. LOL. Like, it wasn't a possibility, but it is legitimately a possibility. Yeah. Now, I'll say this, though, to be clear, because some people are like, wow, talking yourself into Blaine Gabbert in 2022. And I get it, but they aren't doing anything that they shouldn't be doing in terms of like, you obviously talk them up, you explore all your other options. Don't fall in love with a mid-tier option that isn't actually going to take you where you're going to go. Right. Use Gabbert, bridge him to Trask. Trask plays some this year. You find out about those quarterbacks. You probably aren't great, but you're probably not so bad that you lose the culture, the locker room either. Then you're ready to go in 2023. I'm not saying that's what they'll do. I'm just saying that's the path. They're not unrealistic. They don't think Blaine Gabbert's going to win a Super Bowl.
I agree. Here's the thing when it comes to Kyle Trask. You've got a second-round pick invested in Kyle Trask if you're the Buccaneers. Now, albeit it's a late second-round pick. But if this guy's going to amount to anything, in my opinion, John, you may agree or disagree, he has got to be the backup quarterback this year. He has got to be the guy that either is handed or wins the number 2 job just for the reps alone. For him to be able to develop behind the scenes, he's got to be that guy. And that either happens as Blaine, they explored all the options. Blaine was the best available option. Cross the fingers, build a team around the quarterback position, address it in 2023, as you've maybe mentioned. But Kyle's got to be that number 2 guy if he's going to amount to anything here in year 2. He's only got 3 more years left in the deal. Or let's say they get a Deshaun Watson. Let's say they trade for Russell Wilson, whatever, right? You can re-sign Blaine, right? And matter of fact, you might sign Blaine and then acquire one of these quarterbacks later on to upgrade. That's fine and great. I think Buc fans would applaud that. Then you pit Kyle and Blaine head to head, and you hope, if you're the Buccaneers, because of the investment with the draft pick in Kyle Trask, he can beat out Blaine Gabbert in year 2 for the number 2 job. Matter of fact, we had Jake Arians, Bruce Arians' son, say that exact same thing right after the draft when we had him on talking about Kyle Trask. Did we not?
Right. We have to see Kyle Trask play with good players. Like we just have no idea, man. Like we don't know whether he can. I don't think there's ever going to be a great ceiling, but I'm all for him. But I'm also not going to say he's horrible before I get a chance to even see him.
Yeah,
right. Exactly right. It's not like this guy was the first pick in the draft or anything. Like he's the 64th pick in the draft. He was the last pick in the second round.
Yes.
It's okay for the Bucs not to know, and it's okay for them to not totally want to put all their eggs in that basket going into this year. It doesn't mean that he's trash if they trade for Russell Wilson or somebody like that. It's Russell Wilson. Like he's still top 10 quarterback. So anyway, all that aside, we'll continue to talk about Gabbert and Trask all offseason. I did want to just quickly say it sounded like Adam Schefter watched his recent show on, but with Ari Mirov on Pro Football Focus. And it was interesting. He really kind of just said, if this Russell Wilson trade was going to happen, it really probably would have happened earlier in the offseason, or it would have been talk earlier in the offseason, a la Stafford situation. Because like, what's really going to change? Like the Seahawks aren't really they're not a contender coming out of the season. And so they're not really, nothing's really going to change that much to like make them a different team. Just like the Lions weren't going to change enough to make Stafford a different team. So Stafford kind of came right away, right after the season ended, and did it. And so that was an interesting thought by him. I continue to think the Russell Wilson trade is more likely than an Aaron Rodgers trade, but unlikely to happen to the Bucs. But we'll see. We just have to see where that goes. Russell Wilson hasn't actually asked for a trade either offseason. Schefter was clear about that. He has not said he wanted to go anywhere else other than Seattle. And in fact, this offseason he's vocal that he's wanted to stay in Seattle. I don't see Seattle being
the other thing too
otherwise.
Is look at Seattle's depth chart. There's no heir apparent to Russell Wilson. It's not like,
and they could want to suck, but what draft picks this year? Like there's nothing to,
that's the thing.
This draft.
This is a bad draft class, John. You're right. And it's like, at least the Buccaneers have invested in Kyle Trask, a second-round pick. At least the Packers, if Aaron Rodgers wants to move on, retire, get traded, whatever, at least they've invested a first-round pick in Jordan Love. At least the 49ers have invested a first-round pick in Trey Lance. So some teams have kind of built the framework. The Seattle Seahawks have not drafted a quarterback in forever, right? They have not even entertained the notion of the post-Russell Wilson era in Seattle.
Right. Yeah, it is. So that's kind of your quarterback update, as much as a little update, I guess. But I still think those things are a lot. Deshaun Watson could be a possibility, but it's going to see how this situation plays out is going to be really important. There's just a lot of right now, there's too many red flags to Deshaun Watson to make any predictions about anything. I do think let's just pretend for a second, and we obviously can't do this, but if we're just talking football, I think Deshaun Watson to Tampa Bay would be, I don't want to say automatic because the Texans still have to like the package. So the Bucs still have to want to offer a lot because they're not necessarily a high pick. And they won't be if they get Watson, probably, as you've pointed out in your articles. I think that part is true. So the Bucs would probably have to offer maybe a little bit more than even another team might. I don't know if there would be a player involved there. There could be a number of different things there.
Listen, there's been some smoke coming out of Philadelphia, right? That if Deshaun Watson be cleared of criminal charges, right? Jalen Hurts, did he do enough to get the Eagles to the playoffs, yeah, technically, and they got their ass kicked by the Buccaneers in the first round, and Hurts played horribly. Maybe not as bad as Kyler Murray did in his first round playoff exit, but he played bad.
Kyler Murray just catching a random stray.
It was sorry, he was bad.
It was bad.
But the thing is with Hurts is Deshaun Watson would be a huge upgrade for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And the thing with the Eagles is they have 3 first-round draft picks this year. I mean, I don't know how Tampa Bay could possibly compete with that. I mean, Jason, I could say, we'll give you 4 first-round picks. Okay, well, this year's pick is 27. All of the Eagles picks are like before pick 20 or 22, whatever it is, right? And that's this year. They don't have to wait for the pick next year and the year after that and the year after that. By that time, the general manager and coach could be fired. Like, they don't want that. So the Eagles really, in my opinion, have, if they want a different quarterback, they can easily go out and get them before the Steelers, the Washington Commodores, the Buccaneers, the Saints, etc., because of what they can offer.
But here's the important part. Deshaun Watson has the no trade clause. He gets to decide where he goes. And that's a huge important part of this because he's owed $35 million this year, Scott. And if he doesn't want to go to Philly and he wants to go to Tampa and they need to get his number off the books, they need to get all that stuff off the books. They need to lessen the cap and they don't want to pay him. They've got to move him to where he wants to go. And if there's 2 offers on the table, but one isn't really on the table because Deshaun Watson's like, nah, I'm staying, like, I'm not going there, like, period. You know, then it might be like, okay, Deshaun, he loves Bruce Arians. He said it. Bruce Arians loves him. You know, all this stuff. Like, he wants to play in Tampa Bay with that talent. Now, I'll say all that. Like, that's the on-field situation. The off-field stuff, I just don't even think it's on the table until we know, and we probably won't know till April. So this could be
April
drawn out
at
to
the earliest. It might even be into training camp before we know, right? And it wouldn't stop, say, the Buccaneers from doing a deal, but it would put even more importance, really, on having a guy like Blaine Gabbert back in the fold because. The thing is listen, whether you like Blaine or not, I'm not blowing smoke here, folks. The thing with Gabbert is, and this is coming straight from Clyde Christensen, the quarterback's coach, who said that Gabbert was like the assistant quarterback's coach. He, more than anybody, helped Brady get acclimated to this system in the meetings, on the field, etc., because he had multiple years in it with Bruce Arians' offense. Now, Nate Pitts is questioning the validity of this picture of Blaine Gabbert and Tom Brady high-fiving. And this
looks really Photoshop because Gabbert's not looking at him.
Correct.
No look
exactly.
high five.
Exactly.
It's basically the Matt Stafford of high-fiving.
Well, the thing is picture like a wrestling match, right? Where Tom Brady is coming out and Blaine Gabbert is solely focused on the enemy in the ring, as he should be.
What determination.
He holds the hand up. He knows that Brady's going to slap it. And when he does, it's on. Okay, so I'm just saying,
incredible.
Like this picture is not Photoshopped. This is one of the great photos we get from Cliff Welch, our director of photography, who not only takes great action pictures, he also takes pictures that are great editorial shots like that. So like this one right here, Brady, kind of staring down Arians, right? So we'll see.
So nothing totally new, but I do think that there's some worth mentioning in there about Deshaun Watson is that it does seem like the most important thing is where does he want to go once all this. If it does get cleared, we don't know what's going to happen, but that will be a really big factor in this. And I think that there's plenty of reason to believe he would want to go to Tampa Bay. So we'll see if it comes to that. Yeah, that's the thing. The other teams out there, the Panthers, the Commanders, the Eagles, like, I mean, you can't realistically say that any of those teams are in a better position than the Bucs. You can't. So like that has to be attractive to a quarterback at some point in time.
It has to be attractive to Deshaun Watson. It's not attractive. Houston Texans don't care. They just want the booty, right? They want the
right.
So and I don't mean like the booty. I mean like the booty, like the pirate booty, like the treasure.
And now,
that's what
they have to understand though that they can want that as much as they want, but at the end of the day, if Deshaun Watson's not like thumbs up,
it takes 2 to tango in this
exactly.
Right.
So that's going to be a factor in all this too, is trying to get that to happen. So I just wanted to just really quick, Joey, congrats on the promotion to me. Do you deserve it after all the great and hard work you've been doing since you joined? Also eases my worries about you taking the Steelers GM job. No, I'm not getting caught up in a second-rate front office situation for sure. No worries, Joey. But I appreciate this, and I appreciate all the comments yesterday. The comments were pretty unbelievable yesterday. Definitely blown away, super humbled people on Twitter. Just the DMs that I got from people, just encouraging and going into specifics about what Pewter Report has meant to them over the last couple of years, especially, and the Bucs run, but us, taking the show to 4 days a week and expanding everything and growing our staff and growing the amount of content that we produce, and just seeing people like notice that. You wonder sometimes, like, do people even know, like, you're doing all this stuff and you're thinking about all these things and having all these creative ideas, and you wonder how much people, like, sometimes do they take it for granted? Do they know? Do they see the effort that we're putting in? Do you see how much better we're trying to make it for them? That gets lost in the media space. We don't really talk about those things that openly. And so it was just really cool to see, like, how many people have noticed that and have appreciated that growth. And, we obviously know where our traffic numbers are, Scott, and we talk about all the time. We see, like, the growth that's happened, and people see us grow our staff as a result of those things. And we're ecstatic about the direction everything's going in. But it's just cool to know that our fans aren't just, like, coming in and watching the pod, which is obviously great, or reading an article, but they actually are, like, in this with us. You know what I mean? They're invested in seeing me get promoted and seeing people under us eventually get promoted and get expanded jobs, and seeing the site grow and the show grow and all those things. To know that people
and grow old, John. That's the thing.
You grow
really old.
No, grow young. That is really cool that people are in it with us. To that,
your energy, Casey, Matt, JC, Paul, Josh, everybody. I mean, as the old guy on the staff now. I used to be a young guy. I started off covering the Buccaneers. I was 25 years old. I was the young guy on the beat. But it's been really cool. It's helped keep Pewter Report fresh, new ideas, new blood. It's invigorated me. And John, it's a well-deserved promotion. We're happy to do it, and we're just excited about everything that you've brought to the table and everything that you and I and the rest of the team are going to collaborate on to help continue this Pewter Report endeavor. It's been a fun it's been a fun ride for me for now 27 years. It's crazy to think about, But what makes it a fun ride is not just the fact that it's solo. It's everybody on board, right? And it's like, we've had to go from a car, to a minivan. I mean, we're going to have to get like a tractor trailer, right, to put all the PR staffers on board and send this thing down the road at a high speed. So we're just really excited about everything you've done, John, everything that you're going to do. Very well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think you just bring up a good point. Last thing I'll say about it is that we do get caught up in all the, what are we building toward? What is Pewter Report going to look like? What is the traffic going to look like? What are the viewership going to look like? And we obviously have done a lot of obsessing might be a strong word, but we've got a lot. We've done a lot of, like, very, concentrated conversation about those things in the past couple of years. And it's obviously gotten us to a point that we're very happy with, but none of that matters. And I say this to our staff all the time. I think that none of that matters if you aren't impacting people. Like, if people aren't happy, aren't touched, if you're not bringing them joy in their life with the shows and the content that you're doing, if you're not caring for them and showing appreciation for them when they reach out and thank you for something, if you're not thanking them and genuinely meaning it for, like, the participation and the viewership and the readership and all of those things. And if you're not treating your staff that way too, if you're not putting that into Matt and Casey and JC and Paul and now Josh Quipo, our newest addition, who's doing contract stuff and has like 5 articles emailed to me, like, that I have to make sure I get up.
We've already got a couple up already. So
I mean, it's unbelievable. Like,
it's been great.
He's already got his battle plan done, Scott. Like, he said it to me last night.
Are you kidding?
Yes, so that's like due for another 2 weeks.
Nuts.
So it's just cool stuff. But, like, to see the energy that people have for, like, what we're doing is just really, really cool. So I think it's great, because if you're not impacting people, like, you're wasting your time in the business, in my opinion. So as much as it is about how much we can build and grow, it is so much about that on the fan and staff level. So I'm just pumped about that.
Totally agree. Before we get into today's meat and potatoes, what's John's title now? John, I promoted John from the editor-in-chief position. He actually created a new position, a vice president level, but VP of editorial content and sales, right? And so that's a new title we created for John.
Yeah.
And my title, I actually got a promotion too. I didn't really want to tweet it out because it just, I've just been around. I'm not like the new kid on the block, but I've gone from the head janitor to the vice president of janitorial services. So that's my new title.
There you go. That's a good title. That's a great title. Hey, look, you're cleaning up all our messes. That's what it is.
There's not many messes to clean up. That's the great thing. No, I'm staying put as the vice president of the company and the
shot
publisher.
Caller, procurer of information. You have a lot of titles. Let's be honest. We all have a lot of titles. That's what we do when you have a small business, and we love it all.
So
speaking of
titles,
what we love,
hold on one second. I got to address this. Speaking of titles, I will never call on a podcast. I'll have to write about it just so we'll get called out on social media. But I'm never going to call the Washington. This will be the last time you hear me say it. So clip this little.
You're never going to call them by their mascot. Just say.
I'm never going to call them by the Commanders. They're going to be known as the Commodores.
It is.
And yes, for this reason, Richie P. From this day forward, I proclaim the Washington team to be known as the Commodores. The mascot will be Lionel Richie. With the afro, the bell bottoms, and the platform shoes. I prefer the afro Lionel Richie myself. I'm an old school guy. That's just how I think of the Commodores and Lionel Richie. I'm a huge Lionel Richie fan. I say that with all respect. But yes, I would rather see Lionel Richie and the Commodores be the mascot for the Washington football team.
I do hate Commanders, but
it's awful.
Yeah. I mean, I was voting for other things all the way for them. But hey, listen, it fits their franchise, which is total train wreck,
which is complete garbage.
Right.
As somebody who grew up in Virginia, in the metropolitan Washington D.C. area, the Washington Redskins were my first team. I've got a John Riggins autograph pictures. I've got books. I've got an autographed Redskins mini helmet with Dexter Manley's autograph on it. Just memories of my childhood. I don't care about the team now and all that stuff. But the name they should have chosen, John, and I said this the other day on the podcast. What do you think about this? The Washington Warhogs have like a Razorback, like an Arkansas Razorback type logo, right? And go ahead and use the Hogs reference from the glory days with the Joe Gibbs Hogs, right? The offensive line that helped lead them to Super Bowls. And you can still use the jingle too. Hail to the Warhogs, right? You can still do that.
There you go.
But you can't hail to the Commodores. I guess
you would say it. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. We don't like it at all. But one thing we do like, Scott.
What's good, John?
What's good? Celsius. Yes. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy, and Celsius energy drink is the title sponsor of the Pewter Report podcast, and we're super grateful for it, man. The sparkling mango passion fruit has in 1 week changed my life pretty much. My wife knows I cannot stop talking about it. I love this one so much. It's become my favorite. I emailed with Celsius.
He texts me all the time in our Pewter Report group chat. It's always about it's
just so good. Like if you can't get it, it's at 7-Elevens right now by you. It's really, really good. But essential energy accelerates metabolism, burns body fat. There's no sugar. The taste is amazing. Tons of different flavors. I mean, what can you say about Celsius and the fact that it's just all awesome, Scott?
I agree. And you know what I'm doing right now, John? I'm literally doing this. I can't even see right now because I'm not on the screen here. I'm literally purchasing right now a Celsius sparkling Fuji apple pear 12-pack. And I'm sending it to my house right now. And I'm doing so with the subscribe and save option. I'm literally doing this right now. And I'm hitting the subscribe and save, and I'm setting it up right now. And I'm putting in my password, which I'm not telling you.
That's fair. And you're buying it and you're getting yourself some because Celsius is that great. And you can do this yourself on Amazon.
Just did it. It's that easy. How long did it take me? 30, 40 seconds tops. I literally just logged into my Amazon account and I made 2 purchases. I got the tropical vibe, which I'm out of, and then I got the Fuji apple pear that I'm out of too. So
very good.
I just did the subscribe and save. I saved 5% on Amazon. Boom, done.
Love it. It's great stuff. No question about it. All right, let's talk about this offensive situation here.
One more thing, John. One more thing about Celsius. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes here. We have the fast bars to talk about, John.
Oh my goodness, the fast protein bars I heard today. We've got more coming to our house. White chocolate cookies and cream, caramel peanut crunch. Both are outstanding. I can't wait to have more of them in the house because we eat them pretty quickly when we have them.
Yes.
They can replace meal and they can replace sweets, man. It's 20 grams of protein. I think only 1 gram, right, of sugar. It's awesome. Yeah, it's truly the best. So make sure you get a chance to get these things. And the link to buy them, by the way, is in the YouTube description. So make sure you get a chance to check those out because they are game changers.
And the thing is, they're on sale right now. Use the promo code HOLDFAST20. Save 20% on Amazon now through, I believe it's the end of March. I'll have to get some specifics about that, but certainly right now,
right,
for this week. in the next coming weeks, you can save 20% on Amazon on the fast bars using the promo code HoldFast20.
Right. Absolutely. It's great stuff. So make sure you take advantage of that offer. All right. Let's jump back into some Bucs dialogue here, Scott, because we've got to talk about Ryan Jensen and Alex Kappa. We're going to talk about the Bucs' biggest offseason needs. We aren't necessarily going to bring up offensive line, and here's why. We're just basically kind of waiting to see how this thing plays out with these guys. At this point, I think you and I, our Bucs battle plans will come out the week after the combine, by the way. People always look for those every offseason. Peter Report started doing those years ago, and we'll continue doing those. There'll be one for myself, Scott, JC, Casey, Matt will have one, and I think Josh Q's doing one too, so I'm excited about that. So we're all going to have one. That would be they'll all be the week after the combine, so that week before free agency starts. It's great stuff. And so one thing that we'll be focusing on in our, at least mine and yours, I believe I can speak for you on this, in those battle plans, one we'll give a little sneak peek is that we don't think Ryan Jensen is going to re-sign with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point in time. We believe that he's probably going to price himself out. And again, not that the Bucs couldn't re-sign him, but just that they are going to look at the allotment of resources there and just say, I don't know if this is worth it. If he's going to command top of the market money, which is 12.5, 13 right now, the highest paid center in the league is Frank Ragnow, who is much younger than Ryan Jensen. He's 13.5 mil per year, and Jensen is legitimately in play from what we've heard to be like the number 2 guy after the outside of that cost. So it's on the table for him to be the second highest paid center in the league, and the Bucs just can't quite do that again, probably for him at 31 years old, or don't want to at his age. I think he's going to be somewhere else.
I think so too. And listen, you can't blame the guy, right? He's coming off of a Super Bowl win last year. He's coming off of a Pro Bowl berth, his first one this year. He's going to be 31 years old. This is the time to cash in. If not now, when, right? And you can't blame a player like Ryan Jensen, who's in the twilight of his career, still in his prime, but this is going to be his last contract, right? For wanting to cash in. So to me, it's just
it's the way it works, man. It's business. He's going to chase that, and that's all credit to him. He got a ring in Tampa Bay, did exactly what he was supposed to do. And somebody said here, 10 mil. If he was 10 mil and that was his market, maybe the Bucs would go there. If it's 13, I just don't think it's going to happen. I'll just be honest. I don't think it's going to happen. So we'll see how that progresses. But we don't even have that necessarily as one of the biggest needs because they don't pay Jensen. We'll see what happens with Carlton Davis and with Chris Godwin. But we do expect both of them to be back. The question then becomes what happens with the fringe players, the players you're not is quite sure about. We have that group that's probably going to retire. And then there's kind of like the Leonard Fournette, Alex Kappa group that it's like, and Jordan Whitehead too, that it's like, okay, what's going to happen? I guess you could throw Gronk in that if he does decide to come back and play. We're thinking he'll retire, but we don't know yet. So we'll see. Kappa's market looks like it's going to be about 9 mil per year per PFF. Whitehead's market looks like it's going to be about 6 mil per year, which I find very doable. But for some reason, they say, you know what? Todd Bowles is the safety whisperer. We found 3 guys in the draft. We can do it again that we like. Andrew Adams has come in and played well for us. Right. We can have him around, Mike Edwards, and we'll draft somebody at some point that can develop into the other guy. We've done it in the 3rd, 4th rounds before. We can do it again. If that's how they see it, even though I think Whitehead's cheap enough that I would try and re-sign him.
Yeah, $6
million. That's how they see it.
Yeah, I'm maxing the agent.
Right.
The contract right now.
It doesn't affect anything else you're going to do in the secondary. And you got to remember, next year, there just are not that many big names that this team's going to want to keep. So these 2 years back to back are where they have to make all these decisions. But on the road, it's not going to be this tough. So if you have a guy like that, I think it's worth keeping. But let's say they don't, then it becomes, okay, does Alex Kappa, do you have money to keep Alex Kappa? If you're going to let him go and some of these other guys retire and you get the savings from Brady restructures his contract down, you get some cap savings that way. Maybe you extend Mike Evans and you clear up some room that way for this year off season too. There's paths to very easily having money to re-sign Alex Kappa if you want to. Then you probably need to plug Hainsey in at center and you maybe sign a veteran center for cheap to compete.
I like what you just said there because I don't want to just start a rookie sight end scene at center. That's so important, so I'm all for competition. So I'm with you. If Jensen doesn't come back, find a, fair priced, above average center. Now, maybe not the best center in the world. You can't afford him, right? But get somebody else in there to compete with Hainsey, I think, John. I think you're right.
I agree. And that's where I think they're going to look at it. And somebody said Ryan Jensen, third on comp pick. Yeah, I mean, he's going to, that's, it seems pretty much a given. Now you have to see who the Bucs also acquire, because I think there's like addition, subtraction in those situations. But I don't think that they're going to have anything to match it. So I would imagine, yes, they would probably get a third round comp pick eventually for Jensen as well, which is a factor in all of this. Where for Kappa, you might not. We'll see his market. It might not be a third. I don't know the math for all those things, but Cap is also younger. He's got better every year. That matters in this situation, because they're looking long-term for a lot of these signings. A lot of the short-term signings when Brady was there was like, all right, let's do this thing. Let's load up for 2021. And now it's like, okay, they've got the flexibility to say, let's look at some longer-term options. I don't know whether he's going to be back. I just think the possibility is more on the table than it was a month or so ago.
Well, yeah, certainly you can't afford both. You're not bringing Jensen and Kappa back. There's no way. I'm going to be fascinated, because we've seen, John, some of these guards break the bank. It's kind of crazy, right? It's like all of a sudden over the last couple of years, you see, and it's usually like 2 or 3 guards. You're just like, whoa, really? That much for a guard?
Yeah.
But then there's a couple of guys that just weren't the pick of the litter, right? That are you kind of slide into the second wave of free agency after that first week, right? And so it's going to be fascinating to see if a team thinks Kappa is one of those guys that they want to invest in, or if, it's musical chairs and he gets left standing, and then he slides into the more affordable price range, what we call the second wave of free agency, which takes place after the first week, after all the big money's been spent. Then you kind of get those value guys. I'm really going to be curious as to see what Kappa's value is, maybe even more so than any other Buccaneer, because it could be way higher than I would expect or want, or it might be a really good value for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think it'll be, to me, let's just pretend for a second that they don't bring back either of them. Then it changes the dynamic to me a little bit, Scott. Then it's okay. Now we're going to the offseason. We have Hainsey, we have Stinney, we have Leverett. We'll see what Sedarius Hutcherson. We know they liked him. I liked him coming out too, so that's why I throw his name in there. Arians was pretty complimentary of his start. But people need to understand, in Tampa Bay, you might think a certain way about Stinney or about Leverett after one game in a good camp, or even Hutcherson. But no, the Tampa Bay is not putting eggs in any of those baskets. Like, it's clear. Like they thought Stinney could be a guy that competed, and he competed, but he frankly wasn't. Kappa didn't even have a great preseason, and Stinney still didn't beat him out. So it's, it was pretty clear all season, So I don't see that them putting all their eggs in those baskets at guard or at center. So if you lose both, then it's like, okay, can we sign one guy, one vet, cheap and free agency to help us, either center or guard, whatever manifests itself? We'll see. Maybe there's a position flexible guy out there. I don't know. But then can we look at maybe adding a guard in the draft? So I had a first round mock draft go up today, and I had the Bucs taking Zion Johnson at the end of the first round. And right now, the Bucs could take like almost any position, and nobody would bat an eye in the first round. Like, it just, you don't know what's going to happen because of free agency. So many guys in the air right now. And even if, so it's just too much uncertainty. So I gave him a guard, and I thought, if you could have Zion Johnson working next to Tristan Wirfs for the next 10 years, that'd be pretty freaking fun, I think. So it's a good player. It feels like in a draft like this, if you can get a sure thing, even if he's not an elite player, you probably take it. You probably want to do that. So if you could do that, and then Hainsey, is 75% of Ryan Jensen, or the vet is, whoever they bring in for cheap, then I think you've done. I mean, you've gotten your great offensive line, and you've got the players in place you need to. The line's never going to look as good with a quarterback who is less sure of what they're doing. It's just not going to be the case. So there's going to be people are going to criticize the line for falling off no matter what next year, because Brady's the best pocket presence quarterback of all time, and the best pocket movement quarterback of all time. I don't care how good your offensive line is. That helps immensely. So there always is going to be that. No matter how good the O-line is, you'll have that perception. But if you can add a guy like Zion to the mix, Scott, I think that it helps things a lot. So all that to say, we don't really know yet where the offensive line situation is going. And we will reassess after free agency these needs. But as it goes, we go into it right now, we're looking at where their top 3 needs are as a team.
What John's really saying, folks, is that with these mock drafts, his first round mock, when it comes to the Buccaneers especially, and I know guards don't excite fans. I get that. And the 2 mock drafts that I've kind of put up for Peter Report, 7-round mock drafts, we are literally taking a dart and throwing it at a board, because we don't know which positions the Buccaneers are even going to need. This is not like last year, where we're bringing everybody back. And then you sit there and say, okay, well, given the age, of Jason Pierre-Paul and all that stuff, they're probably going to get an outside linebacker. We kind of narrowed that down, right? We nailed that. We actually nailed the Trask pick. This year, these first couple mocks until free agency is over are going to be these are players we kind of think the Buccaneers would like. We think they'd be scheme fits, talent fits, etc. We're just really kind of giving you some names to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
this is not like we had Devin White in 4 out of 5 mocks and Jameis Winston in 5 out of 5s, back in 2015. It's not like that.
It's probably the hardest to get our first 2 mocks. Well, it's wide open for so many reasons. The draft class is bad. We have no clue what's going to happen with the quarterbacks at the top of the draft. Everybody's got a different order. Nobody likes them, but they're going to go because they're quarterbacks. How's that going to affect the rest of the board? There's a million things up in the air right now. So really hard to predict the back end of the first round for sure. But we'll talk about wide receiver here in a second, Eric. But I do want to get to these super chats before we go quickly through our 3 here, Scott, that we have. Because Leo says, and we appreciate the super chat, Leo, as a season ticket holder, I'm selling my tickets to opposing fans if Gabbert is what the team is putting on the field. 4 to 5 win season with him. Fair opinion of Gabbert, in my opinion. But first, 4 to 5 wins. Sell tickets to opposing fans here.
Come on now, Leo. We love you, Leo. We know you love us.
I do want to say this too, though. Here's what I need from you, Leo. Tell me what the better alternative is for the Bucs if Watson, Wilson, Rodgers cannot be traded for, assuming Carr is staying, Cousins is staying. Even though I would probably argue whether those, especially Cousins, is actually. I'm not that he isn't better than Gabbert, he is, but is he actually going to take your team anywhere that's worth going other than the middle of the first round where you can't get another top quarterback? Probably not. So answer me this, Leo. Like, what is the plan B? Like, would you not want to sell those tickets if Bridgewater was your quarterback? Would you not want to sell those tickets if Jameis was back on a 1-year deal? Like, would you not want to sell those tickets if Trask is the starting quarterback? I just don't know how much. Like, Bridgewater probably wins you a couple more games, but what? So you could be in the middle of the first round? Like, again, what's the actual advantage? Because right now there's still a lot of talent and players worth on this team, worth like going to see and rooting for and cheering for every single year. Like, there's a ton of talent like that. This defense, Winston, healthy.
Jameis Winston got to 7-9. I know this is a challenging schedule this year. It really is. The Bucs
and Winston is better than Gabbert, and he's probably better than Teddy Bridgewater, at least more upside than Teddy, different than Teddy Bridgewater.
But at the same time, the NFC South is really, really down. It's there for the taking. I think the Buccaneers can go 9-8 with Blaine Gabbert and still win the NFC South, and that gets them, guess what? A home playoff game. I don't agree with that. That's a different topic for another day. I mean, the NFL likes to reward mediocrity sometimes for the one down division that, we've seen teams that have losing records host playoff games against 10-win teams. It's nuts, but that's what would happen. I think Tampa Bay, as long as there's no rash of injury, it's a thing where 9-8 could win the division this coming year.
Yeah, and Leo says, I know Gabber's just a bridge, but him under center, how are you selling that to our free agents? Godwin can go to at least 15 teams with starting quarterbacks. That's true, but like, here's the other thing, Leo. Like, this is not as big a deal for players signing that are younger, signing multi-year deals as it is for players that are, for example, like Ryan Jensen, who are 31, can get paid at the top of the market for their position when the Bucs don't have that, bandwidth for offensive line pay him anymore. And B, might be like, okay, I need to win a ring in the next year or two because that might be it for me. That might occur to those guys. But for guys like Godwin, like that's just not. Godwin really knows the team isn't going to have Gabbert for the next 4 years. Like, he's not the quarterback of the future.
If Brady were to come back, they'd have him for one more year. And let's say Godwin signs for 5 years. He doesn't know who the quarterback
for the next 4 or 5 year deal. It's not
Godwin wouldn't know who the quarterback would be after Brady, right? That's 4 more years of his deal that he doesn't know. So
I think that part is overstated. I hear what fans are saying, but I think that part's overstated to me. Like, young players, they love Tampa Bay and they trust the direction of the organization, which why wouldn't you? They just landed Tom freaking Brady from the Patriots and won a Super Bowl. Like, I think that you're signing that deal if you get a good, fair money offer. Like, that's what it's about. And Godwin kind of said that too. He said, like, I'll look at the quarterback situation, in a recent interview, he said, but like, what matters? Like, I'm looking at the money, I'm looking at the fit and the place like that. Like, that's, what he's looking at it. So I don't see it as a big deal that other people see it as. Obviously it could be like a tiebreaker thing potentially if, but again, it's the Bucs are an organization he loves and wants to stay with. So we'll just see what happens. I just don't think again, and also they're not selling him. Gabbert is going to be our quarterback. Like right now, they're exploring their options. And when free agency hits, they're going to be exploring their options. Deshaun Watson could be one of those options. Russell Wilson could be one of those options. And a trade before the season could be one of those options. We've seen that happen before,
That's right.
Not that it was good, but Sam Bradford, we've seen those things happen. So this organization is not settling for mediocrity, and everybody as a part of the organization knows that. They've seen them go all in. They know they believe this roster can win now. So this isn't a rebuild.
Chris Godwin has seen Leonard Fournette sign in September. He has seen Antonio Brown sign in October, right? I mean, he knows Jason Light, John Spytek, and the personnel department is working round the clock, 365 days out of the year, trying to upgrade the roster.
Right. I think that part of it matters too. I get the concern. I'm not saying it isn't, but I do think that part's important to point out. So I do appreciate your super chats though, Leo. It is good questions and good fodder for us. Let's dive into Scott to one of the things we want to talk about on today's show, and we'll just kind of go through this quickly a little bit. But the biggest needs for the team, you and I each picked 3, I think, in terms of biggest needs for the team this offseason that they need to address. This could be a unit, a player, a position group, whatever. But what do you got? Give me your first biggest need for the team this offseason.
Well, it's not priority of need, right? Because I think all of these needs are big, right?
You think this one's probably the biggest. You think it's probably the most important position on the field.
No, I just want to get into your skin a little bit, John. Running backs, the guys that carry the ball, right?
Yeah.
Those guys. So
look at this. You prepared a graphic.
On here, okay? I did a little analysis on this, okay? Because I know that you and Paul Atwell from Pewter Report would love to see Bruce Arians and whoever the quarterback is, Blaine Gabbert, whoever, Kyle Trask, go 5 wide all the time, right? And literally just play without running backs, right? Like if you're a running back in the Buccaneers, just go cover a kick, right? Just go cover a punt, right? Special team.
Hope you're a good gunner.
Exactly. But the Bucs running backs actually totaled 447 touches last year.
Too many.
For 2,194 yards, much to John Ledyard's chagrin. And they scored 14 touchdowns. Now, I know John's going to say, okay, Scott, but look down there. They had the receivers and tight ends totaled 4,787 yards and scored 31 touchdowns. That's like double. You're right. It is. It is double. It's double the yards, double the touchdowns. I get you, John. I feel you. But the problem is neither one of us are the play callers. We're not Bruce Arians. This isn't our offense, and we're not Byron Leftwich. So I'm saying they're going to hand the ball off at some point in time, right or wrong. And they're going to throw the ball to these guys out of the backfield. And so all I'm saying is somebody's got to account for all these touches. And you know what? If it's not Tom Brady, they're probably throwing the ball even a touch less because you're not going to have as a prolific thrower. So you're going to be running the ball a little bit more. So I kind of throw all these numbers together again, just to kind of get under your skin, John, a little bit, but also just to kind of point out that it's one of those things that I appreciate that. Thank you, G Vegas. But it's one of those things that this running back group really outside of Fournette does not excite me. And I'm not even saying re-sign Leonard necessarily. If they can kind of string this along like they did last year, let Leonard test the market, and then he comes crawling back to the Buccaneers for less than $5 million. Yeah, bring him back. He's a good fit. But I'd like to see, and we both like Javonte Williams last year in the draft from North Carolina, went to Denver. I'd like Jonathan Taylor, right? Obviously, he's a good running back for the Colts, led the league in rushing. If there's one blind spot that Jason Light has, and I'm writing about this in a future fat, it is the running back position.
Bruce Arians might have this blind spot too. Considering
exactly
Keyshawn Vaughn is Walter Payton.
Yeah, exactly. It's he was enamored with Ernest Graham, or not Ernest Graham, Peyton Barber. I mean, they're the same guy. Ernest Graham, Peyton Barber.
Same guy.
Same guy.
Look the same, run the same, everything.
Yeah, exactly. Same guy, right? And that's Damian Pierce, by the way, for you Florida fans out there this year.
That's who he is. Hater.
That's who he is. I'm just telling you.
Hater.
Yeah.
That's fair. Actually, this is a good point, Scott. I don't disagree with anything you've said. Obviously, if we're ranking value, like you said, I would have running back down there. But you're right that
I agree
that it matters who gets these touches. Like this is legitimately, whether you like it or not, this is going to be a position that matters for the Bucs this season. So
strictly
you don't have to overpay for that.
Right.
Like we've seen that. We've seen teams, not have to overpay for that and still get good quality play from the position.
Exactly.
So we will see kind of what happens and how this unfolds. But it is worth noting that although you can find quality play at running back later in the draft, this is not a draft with a lot of high-end talent at running back. You don't see one even jokingly mocked in the first round.
Correct.
So
you know
that's
what?
when you know it's bad.
Here's the thing. I'm a believer too that really good running backs should be drafted high. Like, right. I mean, Adrian Peterson was well worth the first round pick invested in him. Right. And you can go down the list of all the running backs who have been successful. A lot of them are first round picks. Totally agree. I wouldn't even draft a running back in the first couple of rounds. I mean, if there's the right guy at the end of the third round, better than Keyshawn Vaughn, I would spend the pick. I do the same thing in free agency. Why this is a priority is because you only have one guy out of four on your depth chart right now. It's basically a barren position. Whether it is a Darrell Williams from Kansas City, he would be a good fit because he's a runner and a catcher. Whether it's a Jerick McKinnon, who's a good runner and catcher from Kansas City. Whether it's Chase Edmonds, a runner and a catcher. I would love to see them get Cordell Patterson, but I don't want them to overpay for this guy. And he's going to get paid, even though he's going to be 30, 31. He would be an ideal fit in Tampa. But I think you can get some of these value running backs because they are kind of dime a dozen, John, in free agency and also in the draft. I like a lot of the guys. We had Tyson Algier as a late third round pick out of BYU. Pierre Strong would be a great day 3 pick for the Buccaneers. Rachaad White from Arizona State, a great day 3 pick. We've talked about Zaquandre White out of South Carolina. He might not even get drafted. I just think that there's the running backs that I like, the versatile guys that can run and catch the ball. They're really going to be day 3 guys. So it needs to be addressed, but it can certainly, like you said, be a back burner position, get a value guy in free agency, get a value guy in the draft, and maybe bring Leonard back if the price is right.
Yeah, the reality is that if you look at the free agent group, because you're like, okay, you could draft one, you could, and I'm not saying they won't, but also Keyshawn Vaughn's young and inexperienced. Maybe you bring Gio back, and so you don't want to add a veteran. Maybe bring him back for cheap. Right. That's a possibility. But I don't think Rojo's coming back, and I really don't think Lenny's coming back. PFF has him at 2 years, $8 million per year. I don't know. I don't know if it's happening in Tampa Bay for that cost. They have shown that they don't really want to pay that position. I think since the Doug
Rojo's
gone, Rojo's gone. So okay, so James Conner had a really good year. He's been hurt a lot in his career, but he had a really good year. He had like a ridiculous amount of touchdowns for the Cardinals this past
year. He stayed
year.
Healthy, which was key.
Yeah, he's cheaper than he's going to be cheaper because of his injury history. I think this guy is still young, but
he's the next James Conner right here, the Algier kid.
Algier. Okay, so I mean, there's options in the draft. So I haven't watched any of the running backs yet for the draft, so I'll reserve judgment there. But I trust you when you say it. Chase Edmonds, I believe. Am I right that Arians was there when he was drafted in Arizona?
Not sure. I think he was the 2018 guy.
Was he? So that was Arians' year off, maybe?
Correct. That was his. Okay. Yeah, he coached through 2017. So maybe he wasn't
there. Okay, I could be remembering that wrong. But anyway, Chase Edmonds very much a Bucs type of back because he's really good pass catcher. He probably doesn't carry the load, but he shares the load for sure. He's a guy for sure, change of pace back. And he's probably going to be pretty cheap. So I mean, he's an option out there.
And really, John,
really underrated option I like, Scott, is Sony Michel because he's not going to break the bank. Elite pass protector, one of the best pass protecting backs in the league. PFF has him at 2 years, a little over $4 million. He's not going to do a lot in the passing game, but he has run in different schemes his entire career in the NFL. He's a chain mover. He's just a good, solid player, good vision. If the blocking's there, he will not miss it. He's not going to create a ton.
He won 2 Super Bowls too.
He's won a couple Super Bowls. Like he's a good player to have.
I agree.
And there's other guys out there. Melvin Gordon's a good player. So free agency, there's not like that, but like Rashad Penny, he tore it up for Seattle late in the year.
What's I loved a couple years ago. Yeah.
PFF has him at 1 year, $2 million. So there's other options out there. And although Fournette grew as a pass protector and a receiver this past year, I think they're actually some of these guys can be better as pure rushers than Fournette was. If you can find a way to get, maybe you bump Bernard, maybe you bring Bernard back cheap and you bump his receiving responsibilities, or Vaughn grows in that area, which he's a good pass protector already. We haven't talked about that hardly at all, but Vaughn pass protected his butt off last year when he was in there. So that's a big plus. Yeah. Can you get anybody to be competent receivers? You can kind of committee wise fill out that backfield. You're not going to have a feature guy, maybe like Fournette and Pat last year, but I think that there's other paths rather than paying Lenny, $8 million per year for the next 2 years.
Yeah. And I think the thing too is when you look at the running backs that we've seen been deployed in Tampa. Bruce Arians has been a running back by committee guy. It was really just this year when Leonard just kind of unexpectedly took over, right? I mean, they brought Giovanni Bernard in to be the third down back. they were fully prepared to split carries between Rojo and Fournette, and Rojo just kind of crapped the bed, and Fournette took off. So go back to the first 2 years with Arians in Tampa. It's been a running back by committee, and I think it's going to be more running back by committee than ever with whoever they draft and bring in, unless they bring Fournette back because he's just been familiar with that role.
Right.
John, who do you have in terms of one of your?
We got to pick up the pace on this to finish, so I'm going to go kind of quickly here. Wide receiver 3, I've written about this a ton, and I've talked about it a ton on the podcast. I assume if Godwin is back, that position just has to be upgraded. You cannot go into next season and have Tyler Johnson or Rashad Perryman or Jalen Darden or even Cyril Grayson competing for that position. It's foolishness, in my opinion. That is not how you want to approach this position.
Agreed.
Scotty Miller, any of those guys. This is clearly, they have gotten ample opportunity. They are not where you're looking for wide receiver 3. Maybe you carry one of the roster. Maybe it's wide receiver 4 that they occupy that role, but you've got to upgrade that position early in the draft or in free agency. There are options. I've written about them. Go back and check Bucs briefing from last week. Traylon Burks was in our last mock. He is my wide receiver 1 in this class.
Yeah, he's not going to be there.
I got him offer this correction, Scott, and then I want to move quickly on to some of our other positions here. But you guys said yesterday, I heard you and Casey on the show, and one or both of you speculated maybe if he runs 4.6 or 4.5, he might fall to the Bucs range. Just going to be very clear here. Traylon Burks is not.
He's a flyer.
Running 4.5, 4.6. He's running 4.4. Yeah. I've even been told he might run 4.3, even though he's 225.
I'm hoping he pulls a hamstring, John. We can all hope, can't we?
Yes.
I mean, it's happened.
And
before.
I know that that's out there, that he might run 4.5, 4.6, but I'm just
it's not happening. No, the tape
London
shows he pulls away from people. Yeah,
Drake London is 4.5, 4.6.
Yeah,
Traylon Burks is 4.3, 4.4. That's the difference there. You're going to see one guy's stock go way up and one guy's stock go way down once they run. I think so. That's the wide receiver 3 spiel. I've been on it. Obviously, I'll continue to write about off season. I want to talk about position that we both kind of agree on here, Scott. Defensive tackle.
Yes.
Not a ton of it in this draft, but if Sue retires and McClendon retires, this position matters. I think that Golston's going to come back, but you want to have more than Golston and Vea, and Nacho's a good player, but can you get another younger guy in there? I don't think you need like 5 guys, but can you get another younger player in there who can give you some pass rush juice? Maybe it's some free agency, maybe not, but Devontae Wyatt at the end of the first round is a great guy that could be right there on the board. I love that fit.
Really like Devontae Wyatt because he's more of like that Warren Sapp-ish type player where he's a quick one gap penetrator, Fletcher Cox, Geno Atkins. Kind of think about that style of play. Maybe not the same body type, but that style of play, right? We would love to see the Bucs go in this position. I'd love to see a Buccaneer tackle get 8 to 10 sacks again. I know it's harder and harder to do with the quick passing game and guard play getting better throughout the years. You don't have the Warren Sapps, the Leroy Lovers, the John Randalls getting 15, 16, 17 sacks a season. But one of the guys we had in our mock in the second round was Travis Jones from UConn, who is that big kind of Indomitius Sue type of player, not as talented as Sue is, but he's the kind of guy that's going to push the pile, kind of be that bull rusher, stuff the run. And John, we know how much Todd Bowles likes to blitz, but the blitzes don't happen on third down unless they stop the run on first, and the Buccaneers are the best in the business at that. And it starts up front.
Right, for sure. Good options, good names to have out there. I think the draft, getting younger, probably more of a possibility for the Bucs than a big name free agent, as much as you and I would love BJ Hill for a mid-tier contract.
Language, my friend. Yes.
I don't know if it would happen, but
I agree.
Last one for me is other than defensive tackle is slot cornerback. I want them to change the way I'm going to write about this at some point. I want the Bucs to change the way they feel about slot cornerback position. I don't want Sean Murphy-Bunting in there, and I don't want you to have to move Antoine Winfield to play slot corner either. He's a darn good free safety, and he can play in the box and blitz as a strong safety when you need him to. I'm all about them getting more flexible at safety, and if you have a matchup you like Winfield for on occasion, okay, but he's not a size tight end mismatch eliminator type of guy. He's not that big, so I don't know. They don't have an answer at slot cornerback right now on this roster, and I would love to see them get one this offseason. Is it an actual guy who played slot in college? Maybe Jalen Petrie from Baylor. We've talked about. He played pretty much exclusively slot or in the box for Baylor. He is, in my opinion, he's pretty small, and I don't think he's going to test that great. So I think we might see him slide down the board. Maybe he's a pick later in the draft for the Bucs. That could be a possibility. Dax Hill. Am I saying that right? Dax, is it Hill?
Yeah, Dax Hill from Michigan. Yeah,
another slot heavy guy who could be an option.
Bucs kind of view him more as a safety, which is okay because they've used Winfield in that role, right? They've used Mike Edwards in that role, but they kind of view him as a Mike Edwards, Antoine Winfield type of player, rather than a guy like a Sean Murphy-Bunting, who is more of a pure corner, like in the slot and outside. But John, I'm open to new ideas, and I'm curious as to how you're going to tackle the position here. And you know what? It might be a thing where you might just have to get a football player, and not a guy that has the flexibility to go inside and outside like Sean Murphy-Bunting does, especially if Jamel Dean and Carlton Davis are your best corners and they're your starters. Maybe it's a flex position where it is kind of like an Edwards and a Winfield, where it's a flex position between safety and nickel.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. There's no question that that's in the cards, but this position, in my opinion, needs to be addressed. Tyler Gordon is the guy who can play in the slot some. There's a lot of corners in this class who can play in the slot some. I just think they need to look at their options. We're going to look at their options, especially as they proceed through free agency, and see what happens at safety to know kind of how that outlook at there might be. But I don't think they trust Mike Edwards full-time there. They don't want to move Winfield. Sean Murphy-Bunting hasn't been good enough. Ross Cockrell's not the answer, so they need an answer. They need a better slot, because I think they might have one of the ascending pairs of outside corners in the league going into next year, along with Winfield, hold you back. One of the rising stars of safeties. Right. Figure out the nickel spot, and you're going to fix that pass defense pretty epically, I think. Even if you lose Whitehead, you can replace him still. I don't want to lose him, but you can replace him still in coverage at least. If they can figure out slot, I think you're going to see, if they're healthy, Dean, Davis, slot, Winfield, that's going to be one of the better secondaries in the league, I think, going into next year. Totally keep on that hills. Okay, last one you've got, tight end. You want to touch on that really quick? Seems obvious. Again, it's like the running back situation. You literally need human beings.
You need them
to play.
You need bodies, right? It's like, as it stands right now, you've got Cam Brate, who is your tight end sign. Now you also have Cody McElroy, but Cam Brate, I love Cam. He's been fantastic for the Buccaneers. He's going to be 31 next year. Ideally, he is like your situational tight end 3, right? And at times he was definitely tight end 2 this year. And when Gronk wasn't there, he was tight end 1, and that's not really ideal. So I don't think Gronk is coming back. I think that ship has sailed. To me, when you look at the tight end position in the draft, it's actually the deepest position, in my opinion. And again, kind of like the running backs, there's a lot of day 3 tight ends I like. You don't even have to pay a premium price for a tight end. The Bucs drafted O.J. Howard with the 17th overall pick. There's not a first-round tight end this year, and that's okay. I'm going
to be mashing wide receiver, defensive tackle early to the Bucs.
For sure.
Tight end running back in the middle rounds. That's
definitely. This is a deep draft for tight ends. They're going to have their specific kind, right? So, bypass
there's blockers. That's rare.
Yeah, right. And you're going to bypass the 6'4", 240-pound Isaiah Likely's from Coastal Carolina. Think more of like Ohio State's Jeremy Ruckert at 6'5", 250. Jalen Widmeyer from Texas A&M, more of a receiving type. Same with Derek Deese Jr. from San Jose State at 6'4", 235. Greg Dulcich from UCLA, 6'3", 245. Those guys are too light. You have Cole Turner from Nevada, 6'6", 240. He's just a big wide receiver. Think Jake Ferguson,
Dulcich 6'5". Is nice, though.
Yeah, I like it.
Ruckert is a good Bucs fit, as Long Lost Kaiser points out.
Yep.
So is McBride, if that's the way they go in the second round. I don't know if they value it that much. But
Jelani Woods from Virginia, 6'7", 265. Charlie Kolar, who I saw play a lot at Iowa State, 6'6", 260. Those are guys that can catch and run. That's what Bruce Arians wants. That's what they were hoping O.J. Howard would give him, and he really hasn't panned out. So, but you need bodies, right? It's Brate and it's Cody McElroy right now. So I think that they need probably 2 more tight ends. One maybe in free agency as a find, and then another as a draft pick.
Yeah, could go a couple different routes with that. We talked about Max Williams as a potential free agent target too. Blocker heavy guy. There's lots of blocker heavy. Again, I don't think they're looking to replace Gronkowski's role. They're looking to find guys who allow them to run their system, and then they're going to funnel through the wide receivers like they did in the past before Gronk was an option.
You're right. Still a wide receiver-based offense in terms of the priority for the targets. But when you have a guy like Gronk, you're going to throw him the ball, right? And Heath Miller was that way in Pittsburgh as well, right? So Bruce Arians, if you give him a good tight end, he's going to use him. But they still need him because they still put the priority on the running game as well.
Right, for sure. No question about it. So those are kind of the biggest needs that we feel like you have. There's a lot of them. We could have mentioned other positions maybe, but also some of those might not be needs by the time that this thing wraps itself up. So it is a kind of an off season where we're just not sure. I went with ones that I think wide receiver 3 and slot corner, especially, would be ones that I'd like to see the team address no matter what. And we'll see what happens at defensive tackle. You obviously can't reach, and you got to let the board fall to you. And
it's all about the investments, John. That's the thing. You've got to make the investments in those positions because they're light in terms of their of the guys on the roster. When it comes to investments, the only place to go, folks, is our proud partners at Immuni Financial.
At Immuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Immuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
John, we get to get to Colorado, man. We got to, right? It's spring break's coming up. Listen, folks, when it comes to managing your family's wealth, it just means more to a company like Immuni Financial. That's where my investments are. You can trust them like I trust them. They're simply more than just allocating your assets. They get involved in the legacy planning, the brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts, college savings accounts for your kids, and insurance services. They're like the one-stop shop for all of your financial needs for your household. With over 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, do what I did. Let Immuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Call the folks over there. Talk to David. Talk to Mark. Immuni Financial, 1-800-868-6864. Tell them the Pewter Report sent you. Visit them on the web at immuni.com.
All right, Scott, that kind of wraps up today's show, and just talking about the what we think are the needs for this team. Touched on quarterbacks and offensive line. Ryan Jensen knocked cap at the beginning of the show as well. We've covered a lot of ground on today. And tomorrow we'll be back on the show.
A lot of needs, folks.
Yeah, it's maybe or probably or definitely. Yeah, one of the go. It's going to be a crazy offseason. We're going to continue the conversation about it tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern on the podcast as well. Looking forward to that. Then next week, Matt and I are going to be in Indy. We're going to fly in Tuesday. Jason Light and Bruce Arians speak on Tuesday afternoon. Matt and I are getting in the morning. So we are going to be running over there, covering them talking. That's what we're going to have pods on, that and the combine, how it unfolding and what we're hearing for the rest of the week. So we're greatly looking forward to it. We're excited about it. As always, we appreciate everybody jumping in, tuning in, and listening. Hit like on the way out. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. Helps boost our YouTube SEO algorithm and all that fun stuff. And so give us that love if you can on the way out of the show. Until tomorrow, thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.